Hi, in this video I'd like to talk to you about false hope, doomism and faith when it comes to the climate and ecological crises. My name is Harrison-Plastow. I'm the founder of Source 9 Insights, and I work with a lot of different climate groups as well as brands and businesses in understanding behaviour change, sustainability and climate. I recently went to Anthropy 2023 and I attended that with Rupert Reed as part of the Climate Majority Project. And through the experiences over those 3 days and chatting with Rupert and all the different panel members and having this experience of being at this amazing event with leaders in sustainability and marketing and industry and all sorts of different businesses and charities and NGOs and so on. It was a really interesting and lively discussion. And I came away from it slightly frustrated and disappointed, and also inspired by different parts. And I was sitting with that and trying to work out why. What is it? What is it that's making me feel like that? And I realised it's this. It's the temptation to fall into false hope and self-congratulatory patting on the back. And it's also the doomism, which wasn't present. But there's this third way that I want to talk about, which I think is where my yearning is taking me. So the false hope thing, I see so many businesses taking a platform, standing up in front of others on a panel and having these conversations that have this subtext of let's keep this light, let's stay positive, let's be upbeat, come on guys. And I find that frustrating. I understand and appreciate how important it is to celebrate the wins, to be positive, and to encourage others, 100%. But when it's coming from this sense of false hope, it rings hollow. And that's because I think the tension that I'm noticing is towards fear. How do we handle our fear? When people proclaim that they've got all the answers and they know what they're doing and we just need to stay positive and keep it light, that doesn't feel authentic to me. That makes me feel that it's ignoring the fear, it's ignoring the pain. And one thing that I've personally learned and found really useful is understanding that you have to face those fears. You have to look at them and go down that hole until you hit the bottom of it to come back up again. Otherwise, you're ignoring the problem. And so much of what we're facing is about changes in belief. It's about transformation. It's about shifting paradigms and narratives. Now, the only way that we're going to be able to do that is by changing our beliefs. And that is a huge, huge thing. And oftentimes, a limiting belief is there because it's keeping you alive. And I think so much of our shared culture at the moment and the systems that we're a part of are fueled by these beliefs that no longer serve us. But we don't want to get rid of them yet because we're too scared of what the alternatives are, because it's so uncertain and we don't have this full confidence in what these other beliefs, these new beliefs are. They're emerging. But from facing our fear, we find them. From facing those fears, we find those limiting beliefs that have been holding us back. And then when we stare them down, we're able to change. We're able to shift those beliefs. So it's really important that we face our fears. But here's the thing. If we get stuck facing the fear and we stay there, then we end up in doom. And that's why so many people would rather have false hope than doom. And rightly so. There's a group of people who want to stay in the doom because they are staring at it and it is terrifying. And it holds them there. Now, obviously, that's not going to help anybody because even though fear can be incredibly important to activate and mobilize, and we feel it and it is there, you can't create from fear. You can't build new worlds from fear. The sorts of worlds that you would create would be awful. The decisions that we make when we are terrified are not necessarily good decisions. So there's this tension between false hope and doom. And for me, it's about how we face our fear. So the third way of approaching this, the thing that for me rings true, and that when I see it in others, it resonates so deeply within me and inspires me to take that path as well. I found it really useful to think about, how can I face my fear and go through it? How can I walk through the fire, as it were, until I become more fire than fire, and therefore I'm no longer harmed by it? When I listen to people like Daniel Schmachtenberger, I hear this in him, and Nate Hagen's too. I hear in them this ground that they've arrived at, and in Rupert too, actually, and many others. This notion of facing it, understanding it, and having expanded conscious awareness, and having felt it and allowed it, and then gone, so now what? Now how should I live knowing this? And ultimately, I think the question is, how can we face something that is truly terrifying and respond to it without fear? And I think that is where faith comes in, because to respond to it without fear is to find a way to look at things such that we can approach them with love and acceptance, which is incredibly challenging when you're looking at something so terrifying. But the question becomes, what is it that I can do? What is it in me to give? How can I help? How do I respond to this situation in such a way that it actually lights me up and excites me? What sort of stories enable that? What sort of activities can I look at this situation and think, that thing, I want to do that thing. That's just going to feel so goddamn good and be so useful and helpful. And it requires faith, because it means that we have to hold two things in our minds at the same time, which is that whatever it is that we choose to do, as different as it may be from everybody else, when we look to ourselves and ask ourselves, what is it for me to do? What is mine to do in this situation? We have to be able to hold the fact that it's going to be completely necessary and feel completely insufficient at the same time. And that trips so many people up, because everybody wants to have like the thing. Our way is going to work out. Everyone needs to do what I'm suggesting, and it's all going to be great. We've got a plan. Whereas I think really what's going on is that tension is arising between the necessary and the insufficient, because we're identifying a level of node within a network. And from the node's point of view, yes, what it is doing feels completely insufficient. But from the network perspective, it's absolutely what is needed. It's this accumulation of all these different nodal interventions coming together, that from that whole perspective, and we're thinking in terms of like nested wholes, at the individual level, it feels insufficient. But from the larger level, it couldn't be any other way, and it's what is completely needed, and it is sufficient. It's a pixel on a screen. From the pixel's point of view, it's just a pixel. But from the screen, it's the whole picture. It's the entire movie. And we have to have faith that whatever it is that's in us that gets lit up as that particular pixel, that is enough to create that bigger picture, that we're all in this together. And the lighting up of that individual node is enough. You don't need to convince anybody of anything. Just burn as brightly as you can in who and what you are in response to that truth that you see, and find that way to burn brighter. And that in itself is all that is necessary. That will inspire others, and those who need to see it, and those who can, and those who can hear it will. And that will help them to burn more brightly. And then bit by bit by bit by bit, whatever needs to happen, happens, because the network, the whole, the greater system that we are part of, will do the rest. And that's where faith comes in. That's where it almost sounds kind of religious and spiritual, and I don't mean it to, because I'm just thinking in terms of systems and webs and holes. But I recognize that it has that element to it. And I ask that you don't become resistant to that, because that's not the intention. I honestly think it's just the nature of systems. I think that's to be a part of something larger than yourself, to be a node in a web. That's how it often feels sometimes. So basically, this is all to say, the reason that I felt uncomfortable in some of those conversations is the leadership in many of those conversations was lacking in the sense of its emotional engagement with what's really going on and with the truth. And it's a form of aversion and avoidance to facing those fears. And we have to face those fears if we're going to really, really change. Otherwise, the comfort of staying as we are is too great. Equally, we need to have the confidence to be able to feel safe in adopting new beliefs and challenging how things have always been. Otherwise, we get stuck in the pain and we get lost in the fear and the doom, and we can't create from there either. So for me, I'd love to talk more and experience more with others around this notion of faith, not from a religious sense, but from a systems point of view of understanding that it's perfectly okay to undertake work that is both necessary and insufficient. That's okay. And if we are responding from a place where we have looked at something terrifying and found a way to progress without any fear, then that sounds to me like a lot of wisdom. And if we can cultivate more of that, I think it will do us well. And I have faith that that is enough. So that helps me. If that helps you, then I'm very grateful. Share your thoughts in the comments. Like and subscribe so the algorithm will send this to more people. We can get a discussion going and we can start talking more about, what is a response to this situation that is full of love and acceptance and reflection, and isn't a fully religious idea, but is actually a secular and religious idea, that there is common ground between the two, that we can be thinking about what it means to respond to these challenging times in a more holistic and accepting yet determined fashion. So until next time, I'll speak to you soon. Thank you.